sustained it. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now!
It's a Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Venessa, Harbir, Fouad, and George Grossios.
Hello and welcome to the Multicultural AFL Footy Show. I am Venessa and on tonight's remote panel are Harbir, George, Fouad from Adelaide. Hello guys.
Hello Venessa.
Hello Venessa.
Hi everyone.
Hi. Well, more lockdowns in Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland have caused chaos in the AFL. Nothing is predictable at this time, especially which sides are going to finish in the last two spots in the 8. Last Friday, Geelong went down to the GWS Giants, giving to the Giants a rare 10-point win at the Cattery. Carlton went into meltdown again, letting in the Gold Coast to win by 19 points. Richmond turned on a super last quarter to beat North Melbourne by 33 points. And in a tough South Australian derby, Port Adelaide just scraped home over the Adelaide Crows by 4 points. St Kilda got their act together to defeat the informed Sydney Swans by 29 points, while Hawthorn, on top of Collingwood for the entire game, won by 19 points. The Western Bulldogs blew their chance to finish on the top by going to Essendon by 13 points, and Brisbane finally got their motivation back, burying the Fremantle Dockers by 64 points. On Monday night, the Melbourne Demons consolidated their top spot after beating the West Coast Eagles in Perth. However, Melbourne is on top by half a game only. They have just got to win their last 2 games if they are to stay on top. Interesting to see which side is going to finish on top in a couple of weeks' time. The last few rounds have produced some unusual results and so many failures by teams outside the top 8, which had the opportunities to, but wasting them away. Javier, what happened to Geelong?
Well, I don't think it's an easy question to answer even for Chris Scott. What happened to Geelong against a side which was depleted with the number of injuries and other issues, and they had like 8 players or something out, which they had to do forcefully. So I don't know whether the complacency factor was there, or it was just that the Sam Taylor doing his job on Hawkins and others in the midfield too, where they were able to beat them comprehensively. I think the other issue with the tagging a few players over there, that worked for GWS Giants as well. But all in all, what a win by GWS Giants. You could see that hunger, you could see that fight for the spot that they've achieved now. They are in the top 8. So it had all the elements, like where the team was very hungry and they showed their hunger, and they proved in the end that where you're on the ladder, it doesn't really matter in this season.
Sorry, Harbir, but it was coming in the last 2 weeks, because you can see that Geelong are not kicking accurate at all. We've seen it in this game. They had 17 behinds, and when you look at that, they're just lacking that accuracy in front of the goals, and that's what cost them the game, plus other things as well. But that's how I saw it anyway.
Yeah, I think, but to do that, happen that at GMHBA, that was too much. And Carlton, look, they are in shambles at the moment, I would say. They really need to get their work collectively. And I think blaming just a David Teague at the moment, I don't know whether it's the right thing. I know there's some issues where he couldn't get the rotations right and few other things which are going against Teague. But I think even players, they're losing that hunger. I don't know why, but they're not that hungry. The only way Gold Coast were able to topple them was they were ferocious in their tackles, and we've seen that in this year, although Gold Coast has few bad games, but even against the good sides, Gold Coast have come very strong. And there shouldn't be any relaxation in preparing against the Gold Coast, which we couldn't really see happening in the Carlton. They were not that ferocious. And Gold Coast, huge credit to them, the way the players performed. Touk Miller, he's a superstar. And currently, if this group at Gold Coast stays together, gels together, and I wouldn't be surprised they'll do a lot more damage in the coming years. George, well, Richmond, one of North Melbourne, you reckon Richmond is back now?
Not quite yet, to be honest, Harbir. But speaking of superstars, North Melbourne looked like superstars in that first half. They were irresistible, but they just couldn't put the game out of reach. They were only 20 points up at half-time. They should have been up by at least 6 or 7 goals, Harbir. Nick Larkey and Cameron Zurhaar missing some easy opportunities to really put the game almost out of reach for the Tigers. So it was a real shame that their dominance wasn't reflected on the scoreboard. It was a terrific first half. Aaron Hall was terrific out of defence. He's playing his best season. The North Melbourne midfield were fantastic also. Absolutely made Richmond's midfield look like a really slow, cumbersome midfield. They made them look pedestrian at times. Josh Simpkin, Taron Thomas, Luke Davies-Uniacke were great for that first half. So, Harbir, back to your question about are the Tigers back? They're mathematically within strike of the 8, but if they put in a performance like they did against North Melbourne, particularly that first half, I don't think they'll make the 8. Now, Fouad, the Adelaide derby saw Port Adelaide do it really, really tough.
Yes. Just before I go to Port Adelaide, I'll just make a quick comment on Richmond. Don't ever write a champion. So I honestly believe they've got a fair chance of getting there. Richmond always going to be there. So going to the game at Port Adelaide and the Crows, that was a tough game for both teams. I'm not sure why the scores are so low. Scoring games these days this year. Is it through the corona? Is it because they're fatigued? Or I'm not sure what it is. But having said that, the Crows have, they've been in front all the time till the last quarter, and then that's when they lost their steam. That's to me not good enough. If you look at the Crows themselves, they've only scored a goal in the last, basically a goal in the last half. That is not good enough. That is the game has got away from them. But on the other hand, Port Adelaide were better all the time anyway, but they had so many behinds. So if they kicked straight as well, that game could have been a different game altogether. But good luck to Port Adelaide. They probably will be in the top 4. Now, to you, George, St Kilda against Sydney. What do you think of that game?
Well, St Kilda are a real Jekyll and Hyde side at the moment, aren't they? They were absolutely atrocious last week, taking nothing away from Carlton. The Saints have managed to keep their faint finals hopes alive with a brilliant win over a Swans team that's been probably one of the best teams over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So a momentous win for the Saints. It keeps them mathematically in the hunt for the 8. They look desperate from the word go. And Sydney Swans somewhat, I thought, a little bit tired. They weren't quite as sharp and fluid as they have been in previous weeks. Perhaps their hard-fought win against Essendon last week took it out of them. Essendon, of course, pushed them all the way. So I thought they looked a little bit fatigued at times. Jack Steele for the Saints was brilliant with 34 disposals. Rowan Marshall, a very key player for the Saints. Whenever he plays well, the Saints play well. He seems to be a barometer. And good to see Jack Higgins being accurate for a change. He's been subject to a lot of criticism for his poor kicking at times, but kicked some valuable goals. As for the Swans, well, I think their top 4 chances are absolutely shot now. It's going to take a miracle for them to make the top 4. But being in 5th or 6th place, they can still cause havoc in the finals. So I can still see them go really, really deep into the finals. Hopefully they get an important player like Callum Mills back next week. They really did miss his calm presence in the lineup.
But George, do you see the top 8 changing in the last 2 games of the season? I mean, is it going to change or is it going to stay as it is? Because you've got Richmond knocking on the door, so is Essendon and St Kilda. Do you think anything is going to change, or the top 8 stay in?
Oh, look, Fouad, that's a great question. If anything, it's position 7 and 8 in the top 8 that are up for grabs. Sydney, they're entrenched in 5th spot. Brisbane Lions, you might get those 2 teams change, if anything, but 7 and 8 is very much in play West Coast, and we'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. But I think they look
really
shot.
What you're saying, George. So really, what you're saying, George, the 3 teams that they're knocking on the top 8, they need to win their 2 games plus wait for some games to go their way, I guess.
Well, I think it'll be down to Richmond and perhaps GWS, Fouad.
No worries.
Thank you, and we'll be back with more reviews and round 22 previews on the other side of this break. Back again as we continue with your reviews. Hawthorn show a glimpse of the Clarkson magic as they tore apart Collingwood, and the Western Bulldogs have no answer to Essendon's aggression. George, your Hawthorn side put on a great game against the Magpies. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Venessa. Another coaching masterclass from Alistair Clarkson. After orchestrating a fantastic win against Brisbane Lions last week, the Hawks were able to notch up consecutive victories for the first time this season, so a long time coming for the long-suffering supporters. The Hawks set up the win with an 8-3 first half. Tom Mitchell, terrific again this week. Chad Wingard had a good game. Jago O'Meara was outstanding as well. And good to see Hawthorn's young players also putting in very, very good performances. Lachlan Bramble with 25 touches. Connor Nash, he's starting to show some form, as is Dylan Moore. He's a really good find for the Hawks. For the Magpies, they're starting to blood some promising youngsters as well. I like the performance from Finlay McRae, 20 disposals. Oliver Henry also showed some promise. And it looks like the Pies have found another forward in Jack Ginnivan. So although they lost and they were quite poor in the first half, to be fair, the Hawks were just too slick in their ball movement. The Pies, at least in the second half, made it more of a contest. They did get to within 19 points to scare the Hawks. It was almost a repeat of last week where, of course, Brisbane Lions kicked 8-1. So we were a little bit worried, us Hawthorn supporters, the Pies were going to stage a similar comeback. Hawks were able to steady. So much to like about the Pies as well. Harbir, your Bulldogs suffered a costly loss in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. You rightly pointed out in many ways with Bruce and already on the sidelines, Alex Keith. At the moment, I think with Stephen Martin out, I think they're feeling the pinch now, especially against a team who's well prepared for them and they want to give it to them. I believe they might be found wandering, and especially with the inaccuracy in front of goals. That's what's been haunting Bulldogs for a few years now, and it comes here and there and comes back to haunt them. I think that's probably what downed them yesterday. Otherwise, there was a good battle, but other sad part was for Bulldogs that clearances were won by Essendon, and with this very good midfield, I think that shouldn't have happened. But lesson moving forward, and it's gonna becoming more hard for them to play in the finals with that kind of injuries happening at the wrong time. And on the other hand, Brisbane, they found some motivation from somewhere. They were able to crush Fremantle. Brisbane's always been a better team, but lately they've proven that they haven't been able to play according to their own standards. So this time we could see that against Fremantle. They showed that hunger, all their midfields, and everyone contributed in such a manner that they were able to crush Fremantle.
Thank you, guys. Let's look at this week's round 22 matches as the AFL ladder tightens up for the top and bottom sides. Starting the round off with a huge game between St Kilda and Geelong. Melbourne takes on Adelaide, the GWS Giants host Richmond, and the Gold Coast play Essendon.
Well, Venessa, Geelong is going to play St Kilda, and that's a great game because the two teams, I don't want to say in form, but Geelong is, I think they are going to be too strong for St Kilda. But don't underestimate St Kilda because they're playing good football and they have a few wins lately. But if we go to Melbourne and Adelaide, that is going to be a one-sided game. Of course, if Melbourne should beat Adelaide, then that can probably cement their position on the top of the ladder. So that will be a one-sided team, and especially Adelaide having got Tex Walker, and they got a couple of injuries in their team. So from there, I think Melbourne will be too strong for Adelaide. Harbir, what about the Giants against Richmond?
I'm really, really looking forward to that game. That's both the teams know what's at stake, and we can see that Richmond GWS, doesn't matter who plays for them, they have the ability to topple any team. So Richmond should be well prepared for them, and I'm pretty sure they will be with this game, because they know what's at stake. And a lot of criticism that's been happening around Richmond, that they don't have them in this year or so. But as you said before, we can't really write them off just yet, because this is the time, this is the crucial time when we will know that who comes on top and who doesn't, because that's where the premierships are won. What you've done in the whole year, that's different. If you can get into the final, it's anybody's game after that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I don't, as I mentioned before, I don't care who's playing or not. I don't think it will make much of a difference on that. And moving on to the next one, George, you think Essendon would have their tails up after defeating the Bulldogs, I suppose?
Yeah, Harbir, that was their best performance of the year. It keeps them within striking distance of the top 8. Gold Coast will be a stubborn team, I think. They had an impressive win last week, of course, as we just spoke about. So this is a real danger match for Essendon, but they have plenty of incentives to win this match. I'm not really sure which of the two teams out of Giants, Richmond, they would want to see lose, but they need to focus on their own performance. I would expect them to have a good win, but Gold Coast will make it very tough for them, Harbir.
Yeah, I think what is happening now is everyone's got their destiny in their own hand, especially with that team and with the teams who are fighting for the top 8. And as a matter of fact, even the top positions above them are not really sure that who's gonna be over there. There could be few changes. So it's a beautiful time for someone who just loves footy and just wants a good competition in. And North Melbourne as the wooden spooners, like they are probably one of the very, very improved teams this year. So it's a great competition. It's a healthy competition, which is what we are loving as a footy lovers.
Great comments, guys. Thank you. We are off to a break, but stay tuned to the Multicultural AFL Footy Show for more reviews when we return. Welcome back. We continue with round 22 as North Melbourne take on Sydney. Hawthorn will mount a serious challenge for the Western Bulldogs, while Port Adelaide plays Carlton. The West Coast and Fremantle with badly doubt for the Western Australia derby. George, your thoughts, please?
Yeah, North Melbourne were brilliant in the first half against Richmond. If they can put together a 4-quarter performance, Sydney will be in a lot of trouble. The Swans will really need to be on their game for the entirety of the match. They won't be able to play in fits and spurts like they did last week and the week before that. A top 4 berth, I think, is out of the question. I can't see Melbourne and Brisbane losing their next 2 games. That's really what it's going to take for Swans to pick them for a top 4 spot. It's not going to happen. The Swans, nevertheless, will want to find form so they can go into the final series with some confidence and their game plan very much intact. I expect a close match, guys.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying too, George, but I think Sydney will be a classy team for the North Melbourne team. Sydney's been there, done that in, comes finals. I think they'll be too strong for North Melbourne. That's in my opinion. In the next game, Hawthorn will mount a challenge to Western Bulldogs. What do you think of that, Harbir?
Yeah, definitely. I am a bit scared of Alistair Clarkson at the moment, and the passion he's showed this time in the game, where he knows that he's leaving this team. That's what, and we all sort of agree that what Hawthorn did to him wasn't that nice. But still, he's sharing the same passion that he has for this team, and all those players are responding to that passion, helping him to have a good send-off. And I believe it's going to be a game played with very big passion as far as Hawks are concerned. And I wouldn't be too surprised with all those injuries and all the issues that we have at Bulldogs in the front and the back. They might be able to give them a big surprise. And to me, the way Hawks are performing in this time of the year are looking a touch better than Bulldogs. I know that top of the ladder and the one match shouldn't sway our view either way, but it looks like Hawks going to be coming on the top in this game.
Harbir, can I ask you a question? Who will replace Josh Bruce up forward?
If it was any other coach, I could have been. It would have been a much easier question to answer. But with Luke Beveridge, we don't know what goes through his mind. So everyone is talking about Zane Cody can come in the front too, or Jordan Sweet can come in the middle, and English goes over there. But knowing Luke Beveridge, I don't know what he will come up with. But hopefully, whatever he comes up with, it works for him. Otherwise, Bulldogs are in a bit of a strife at the moment. Yeah, and Fouad, Port Adelaide. What do you think about that?
That is going to be a great game, because if we look at Port Adelaide, they will treat the game between them and the Adelaide in the derby as a loss, because they didn't perform. They couldn't kick straight. So I'm pretty sure that the coaching staff are going to work on accuracy in front of the goal, and they will rectify this problem. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to make it tough for Carlton. So to me, we'll see Port Adelaide coming to fight strongly to secure a top 4. And the next game between Freo and West Coast, that is the derby. To me, I would say that West Coast will be too strong for Freo. Although Freo has been showing us glimpses of hope lately. They have won a few games, and you never know in a derby. And in my opinion, West Coast will be the winners for that.
Thank you, guys. Which brings me to my footy tips, and this week I'm going for Geelong, Melbourne, GWS Giants, Essendon, Sydney, Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, West Coast, and Brisbane. With COVID restrictions and lockdowns, it is advisable to check with your local media for times and venues to confirm when and where your team is playing. That is all we have time for this week. You can also watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday evenings, on Aurora Foxtel TV at midday Saturday, and on the NEMBC YouTube. You are listening to this podcast on the Community Radio Network, and the AFL Diversity Language News can be heard on national multicultural radio stations. I am Venessa Gatica.
I'm Harbir Singh.
I'm George Gracias.
I am Fouad Andreas.
Thank you, and we close with the highlights of the Eagles and Demons match.
Almost Kennedy, here's Bowie. Look out! Run down! Holding the ball! Advantage taken, goal! West.
Worked out which was the best. Cole with a little bit more time. High footy, minute 34 left. Got to score now. Now Darling has taken the mark. Plays on, kicks around the corner, goals it. They're back within 9 points.
He goes long to the top of the square. And a big fly there from McGovern. Couldn't hang on. There's your siren. Melbourne somehow. Pulsating restart at Optus Stadium.